Reports out of Bloomberg are saying that OpenAI is currently set to raise at $150 billion valuation. This is interesting because we heard some reports just a few weeks ago that they were raising at $100 million or $100 billion valuation, and that was in itself was really exciting. A lot of people were talking about that. In February, they raised an $86 billion valuation. So it seemed like, okay, 86 billion, 100 billion, these things are moving up. They haven't released any like crazy new models. They have a lot of tech that's unreleased. It seems like they are raising at a huge valuation. Now, I have a bunch of theories on why this could be, what the jump is from, and also breaking down who's putting the money in, what they actually plan on doing with it. There's a lot of really interesting moving parts here that I think not a lot of people are talking about. Before we get into that, I wanted to mention that today's episode is sponsored by my AI Hustle School community. So if you have ever wanted to start a side hustle using AI, if you ever wanted to become an AI consultant for companies or build just different side hustles that generate revenue using AI tools. I've done many, and I host an amazing podcast called AI Hustle with my co-host, Jamie McCulley. You should give the podcast a listen if you haven't already. And we have a school community where for $19 a month, you can join and we break down exact products we use, exact software tools and processes that we use to make thousands of dollars from, just different AI side hustles. This is fun for me. I'm building a company, AI Box, that is going to allow anyone to create AI tools and make money from them. So I'm kind of interested in the space and testing out different strategies and tools that are out there. And I publish and share all of that on the school community. So if you're interested, there's a link in the description to the school community, and I would love to have you as part of it. Now, as far as OpenAI, what they're doing, two different things stand out to me. The number one, this got leaked by Bloomberg, by the way, and it's kind of like an anonymous source in the company. But honestly, this all seems to be falling in line. The first one is that right now they're in discussions to raise $6.5 billion in equity financing. But in addition to that, apparently they're talking to banks to provide them up to $5 billion of a credit line. So that's $11.5 billion total. And this is interesting because it's obviously at a great valuation, but this is the same amount of money this is more money than they essentially sold 50% of the company for to Microsoft. In the past. It's interesting that almost half of this is credit line. This obviously isn't something you can do when you're a very early stage company, not making a lot of revenue. But as we're seeing, OpenAI is making billions of dollars in, I think, like $3.5 billion a year in annual revenue. And so I think at this point, they can go and get these $5 billion credit lines because they can show the bank, look, we're making billions of dollars. And so it's conceivable that they could pay this back because when they raise the 6.5 billion from investors, that doesn't have to be paid back. So who is giving them this money? Why is the price jumping? I have a theory on the price jumping, but the first thing I want to talk about is who is giving them the money. So this round is still supposed to be led apparently by Thrive Capital. That's who they were kind of leaked earlier by, I think, the information that was going to be putting $1 billion into their $100 million valuation. It looks like the valuation got higher. They're talking with Microsoft, Apple, and NVIDIA to come in. So it seems like they have all of the big players. Everyone's interested, and maybe they're just deciding that it's a little bit, they get a better valuation. It's a little bit frothier. Something else that I do think is interesting is the fact that we're still like, I know a lot of people are like, oh, they're just trying to get as much money as they can right now because we don't know what, they don't know what's going to come down the pipe. Maybe their competitor is going to beat them or something. I don't tend to think that that's the case. I think that potentially the reason why they were able to go from, $100 billion to $150 billion jump in valuation, sure, the markets might be a bit frothy and they're kind of like the king of the castle, the best AI company. But I think the real reason is we've heard rumors that in 2 weeks, OpenAI is going to be launching a new feature for ChatGPT. I can't say a new model, but essentially it's called Q-Star or Strawberry. I've covered this in the past, but we weren't sure when this thing was going to drop. And apparently there's some new information on it that was leaked from the information about what exactly is going on with this. And so I think that my kind of assumption and thought here is if you're able to go from $100 billion valuation to $150 billion valuation, that's a pretty massive jump in just a month or so while you're still in talks with investors. My assumption is between Sora, their video model that's unreleased, and a bunch of their probably some image and some audio stuff that hasn't even come out yet, or hasn't had a broad rollout on the audio stuff either. that investors see there's a ton of potential and the OpenAI is just going to keep gobbling up more and more of the market. And my assumption is that this new Strawberry model is also been really impressive. Typically, when you go and raise money from big investors, you go and show them like the tech that not everyone can see, and you're like, look, we're raising this big valuation. That's because we're about to release this amazing tech, and you give them kind of the demos of the latest and greatest that you don't show everyone else. My assumption is that's what's happening with Strawberry, QStar, Sora, and of course their voice and whisper, whatnot. So I think this is really exciting. I think there's a lot coming out. So what exactly is Strawberry and QStar going to do? Why would it warrant, if it does warrant, an extra $50 billion on their valuation, that's massive. Like at the peak valuation, that's like 30% higher than that. So what warrants that? Strawberry QStar essentially runs through a really intense process when you ask it a question for kind of running through like a logical steps to make sure that the response it gives you is really good. The idea is that this is really good for code. This is really good for problems that need a lot of thinking. Things that typically in the past math that had hallucinations, right? You'd ask it questions and it got it completely wrong. This is apparently supposed to solve the problem. So is it just like, boom, the model's better? Not quite. There are some definite trade-offs that have been reported. The biggest one that I've seen, some sources over at The Information said that the model is going to take 10 to 20 seconds to answer a single question. So right now we ask the question and we can see in real time it kind of typing it out. Boom, it fills you out in the whole question. That's not going to be the case forever, apparently, with QStar and Strawberry. Now, maybe this gets faster in the future, and that's could be a big part of why they're raising another $11 billion. Two things they can do with that. They can buy more servers, buy more GPUs, get more compute, run things faster. They also can spend money optimizing the model. We've seen a lot of success from other companies. It seems like OpenAI just takes a big chunk of money and throws it at more GPUs right now, and a lot of people are doing that. But there's a lot of companies that have seen a lot of success with just optimizing the model so it can run faster and be more accurate. I believe Grok was able to do some successful things there. So it'd be interesting to see if they spend the money on that. But definitely, I think GPUs and talent are going to be a big part. One thing that I think not a lot of people talk about is just how expensive it is maintaining the top AI talent. So there's only so many people that really are in the top echelons of AI and what's going on. You have, of course, Yan over at Meta, who's doing a phenomenal job. Anthropic's doing a great job. And it really seems like there's some real top talent that they don't want to lose. And we've seen leaks that I think they're paying like $5 million to some of their top talent. And that's not all just like a cash salary. A lot of that is stock, which, to be fair, like look at the stock price. We're seeing $86 billion valuation in February and now $150 billion valuation. Like stock is going up like crazy still. So it seems like this company is definitely growing, and the people that are getting paid for it, if they're getting paid in stock, that's also doesn't seem to be a bad deal, right? Like, imagine you're making $5 million in stock, and it goes from 80 billion to 150 billion. You're almost doubling your stocks now. It's like $10 million a year, and it's probably stock options for cheaper prices. So honestly, it's probably it could be even more than that. You could be making $15-20 million a year in stock options as one of the top researchers at these companies. So all of this to say, this is very expensive to maintain these people. And so when they're raising crazy numbers like $6.5 billion and $5.5 billion from the bank, that $11 billion is going, a lot of that is going to researchers, and then a lot of that is going to compute. Obviously, probably the most expensive part. So really exciting to see what happens here. I will keep you up to date when Strawberry/QStar launches, how good it is, and also when this gigantic funding round closes from OpenAI. I'll keep you up to date on how much they actually end up raising, who puts the money in, and what the final valuation is. If you enjoyed the episode today, I would really, really appreciate it if you could leave a review on the podcast. Something I've noticed, shout out to all the Apple listeners over on, if you have an iPhone, I feel like I have way more listeners on Apple. I think probably like 70% of my listeners are Apple, maybe like closer to 30% are Spotify, and there's some numbers in the middle of other platforms, but those are my big places. And Spotify currently has written more reviews than Apple. So if you could do me a huge favor, if you have an iPhone or an Apple device and you could leave me a review if you haven't already, I would really, really appreciate it. It helps me get amazing guests and get you these timely episodes, even while I'm traveling like now. But in any case, hope you all have an amazing rest of your day. I'll keep you up to date on some very exciting new announcements and stuff coming down the pipe very shortly.